Hey everyone, it's True Review! Right here with another top 10 list. Now, I enjoy a serious game every now and then. They help to tell a powerful narrative in an unforgettably atmospheric environment. And equally, I do enjoy funny games every so often too, because they help lighten the mood and make you feel good. But there are times when these two genres cross over and surprise us with moments that take us by surprise and make us laugh when we weren't expecting it. Therefore, we have for you right now the top 10 funniest moments in serious games. Rules for this list include the usual rule of only one per franchise. Unintentionally funny moments from bad games don't count on this list, they have to be from good games. And finally, Easter eggs don't count on here either because they're a whole different kettle of fish and are only optional anyway. But anyway, hit it! A Night to Remember! I'm sure I've talked about this quest before, but considering that this game is all about saving the world from dragons while there's a bitter and bloody civil war going on, it does make you laugh to know that there's a quest in here that mimics the comedy film The Hangover. By challenging a guy called Sam to a drinking contest, you'll suddenly find yourself waking up in Markarth's Temple of Dibella with the entire place trashed and several priestesses standing over you with a not so impressed look upon their face. It is now up to you to figure out what the hell just happened during your blackout, and along the way, things only get crazier. From proposing to the local drug dealer, to stealing a farmer's goat so you can sell it to a giant, the quest, A Night to Remember, is certainly a funny, memorable experience that lightened the mood in an otherwise oppressive and harsh world. God's philosophy! The first two Thief games are arguably the best in the series. Huge open maps that can take you several hours to get through just one of the many levels when playing casually, a lack of light because you're a thief so you operate at night, a decaying world filled with corrupt nobles at the top, and cults, undead and demons at the bottom trying to erode them from behind the scenes, and you stuck in the middle trying to get the rent paid by lifting everything that isn't nailed to the ground, while trying to avoid being called a taffer. And here to stop you are the many city guards who patrol the streets and the homes of the rich, and it's impossible to go through these games without bumping into them. But have you stopped to listen to them recently? Because the first Thief game, i.e. The Dark Project, has some of the best guard talk I've ever heard.
You ever wonder where all the money for the fancy marble and the carvings and the art comes from?
It makes me sick. When I was a kid.
Huh! Surprised you're even in this job.
Ooh, the blood, it just turns my poor tummy.
Shut up, you taffer.
It's great getting to listen to people who clearly don't appreciate each other's company, complaining about the most redundant things or making the most pointless observations. They're clearly bored with their jobs, and I'm the only one here having fun. Hitler's film scene! Unfortunately, I was unable to do a rant on this game when I finally got it, and that was due entirely to poor optimization and bugs on the PC version, and while I had loads of fun with that game, there was one part that stood out for me. Now, the Wolfenstein games aren't meant to be taken seriously, as some really stupid stuff does happen in those games, yet most of it sounds silly on paper, but it's actually really fucking brutal when played. Except for the scene where Hitler shows up. Now in this part, BJ Blazkowicz has been publicly executed before being turned into a Futurama head in a jar for a little bit, before being given a new body. So as far as the Nazis are concerned, you're dead. So much in fact that Hitler has commissioned, and possibly written himself, a film on your capture and death. And he needs someone to play the part of you. And there's no one better to play you than you. So you go to Mars to star in a film about your death as you, and then Hitler shows up. To put it simply, he shows up, shoots one of the auditioning actors, pisses himself, then vomits on the floor, and then finally takes a quick nap to sleep it off. Being recognised worldwide as the most evil man in history, it's expected that he'd be portrayed in a bad light, but this is just comical. Just getting his knob out and urinating all over the place is hilarious enough but seeing him completely fall apart in front of you, as well as the situation you're in, is just incredible. And keep in mind that this is all happening on Mars. You also have the option of stomping on his head and killing him, which will earn you an achievement, but doing so will also get you killed, so you need to weigh up the pros and cons of killing Hitler. $20 mode! I only recently found out about this one, but this one's great. Slender the Eight Pages was a viral horror game that came out many years ago. It took the horror genre by storm for introducing to many of us the horror concept of the Stalker, as in an unkillable enemy who will relentlessly pursue you. Then it quickly got called shit, and now we're at the point where liking it is considered a bad thing. Personally, I don't think it's all that great, but I wouldn't say it's bad. It's a novelty piece. However, if you manage to complete all the different modes for this game, then you unlock a new one called $20 mode. Now, if you ever wondered why the Slender Man is actually following you, well, it is only here do we finally understand his motives and hear his voice for the first time. At least he's not asking for tree fitting. Dog ending! Silent Hill 2 is one of the most atmospheric, engaging, painful, and psychologically disturbing games you'll ever come across. This is a game with layers upon layers of symbolism, references to psychological and emotional conditions, and many of these deal with the dark recesses of the human subconscious. And even if you've never played a Silent Hill game in your life, the fact that you're watching this video right now would mean that you're at least somewhat aware of the setting of the town itself. But have you ever wondered what's behind all of these events? Why is the town the way it is? What is the underlying driving force of everything that is happening here? Is it God? An alternative reality of which the gateway is on the border of Silent Hill? Is it the sin of man that has all somehow accumulated into one area of rural America? Nope, it's a Shibarinu working a computer. Shame on you for thinking otherwise. James' deep-seated psychological issues and desires haven't been projected on the town at all like you'd all been thinking. It was actually a dog sat behind a computer inputting commands to make all of this stuff happen. Silent Hill 2 is probably the single most serious game you'll ever play, but to find this hidden ending just blasts all of the seriousness out of the window in one fell swoop by explaining the events of the game as the result of a canine who's not quite sure how to use a computer.
Mambo number 5.
The Silver Shroud! Though the atomic bombs fell well over 2 centuries ago, radiation levels are still dangerously high in some areas of the world. But fortunately, humanity is beginning to rebuild itself, with pocket societies and small city-states popping up across the wasteland. But like with any settlement, law and order is a big factor that needs to be addressed immediately, and it would seem that the streets of Goodneighbor and the surrounding area is suffering from criminal gang activities, drug smuggling, and all manner of nefarious doings. So what is the best way to deal with this? Would the best thing to do be going to the town's watch and letting them know what's happening on their turf? Would it be forming a community watch and driving these people out? Maybe hiring outside help to purge the town of the criminal underworld? Just anything except asking me to dress up like a crime-fighting superhero from a radio station and murdering people in the streets. No, come on, anything but that. That's just gonna make the problem worse. So yeah, after being hired on by Kent Connolly, you're sent off to track down a replica Silver Shroud costume before going off to fight crime in a world where super mutants live like 5 feet from your house while they capture people and either kill them outright or dunk them in FEV to turn them into super mutants too. With all the raiding, slavery, mass murder, drug use and cannibalism going on, what this world doesn't need right now is a dude from 200 years ago in the past going around pretending to be a crime-fighting vigilante and adding to the body count. But you're also given the option of saying stuff in the style of the Silver Shroud, making big speeches about justice before redecorating the walls in claret. Ocelot's cat impression! The Metal Gear Solid series is one of my all-time favourite gaming series. playing as a genetically enhanced super soldier / secret agent sent into various places to prevent a global catastrophe where nothing is as it seems because someone is always playing both teams. It's a nerve-wracking, stealth and gun-filled experience with many incredible twists and turns. And yes, the series is also known for getting a little silly at times, when you stop to consider that Metal Gear Solid 4 spends about 1/3 of the game having two old age pensioners battle each other in huge robots, and the whole thing gets a little too robot anime battle style for my liking. But I'd say that the funniest moment comes from a scene in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, where a young revolver Ocelot challenges Naked Snake with his Ocelot's call. Dude, I don't know if you're trying to call me out or if you're hitting on me, but either way, that's fucking hilarious. The Sinner's Sandwich! This game is weird, there's no denying that. A small country town where gruesome murders take place whenever it rains, and something about red leaves being connected to all of this. At times the world around you changes suddenly into a hellish existence, and where possessed and transformed people will begin to attack you while pleading for you not to kill them. So with that in mind, it's probably no surprise that we'd end up being treated to a very strange scene where one of the characters introduces us to a new type of sandwich that sounds revolting on paper, yet Mr. Francis York Morgan falls in love with it upon his first bite. But going from discussing a gruesome murder and possibly supernatural case, to then immediately dropping all of that because this sandwich is so fucking good, I couldn't help but put this scene on this list. Named simply as the Sinner's Sandwich, this lunch contains turkey, jam, and cereal. Now I've actually made this before in real life and it's not that bad. It's a strange mix, but it's not bad for lunch, and it offers more than just a tasty crunch. So says Mr. Stewart. Getting drunk! With monsters everywhere, a dark sect initiating the foreboding wild hunt, your daughter up and vanishing, and the annoying yet sexy as hell girlfriend nagging you to get her back, along with all manner of crap being thrown at you all the time, it's like the entire world expects Geralt to pick up the pieces every time he walks into town. So I totally get why Geralt feels the need to let off some steam. But Yennefer strictly told him not to get wasted with his Witcher pals. Of course, it's entirely up to you if you want to throw a command out the window and get absolutely plastered with your chums, and doing so leads to some incredibly funny situations. With Geralt telling Lambert how much he loves him, to playing I Never, and eventually wrapping the whole thing up by sneaking into Yennefer's room and trying on her clothes, only to then get busted at the end. Considering how serious this game is up until this point, this was a very funny scene that we just weren't expecting to see.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust.
The constant struggles of life. 4 city-states in competition with each other for resources and land. An outside empire threatening the lives of the innocent, and immortal men who want to see chaos and destruction reign by summoning ancient monsters to cause untold damage to the world around them. And all of these things have been thrust upon your shoulders. So it's natural that you want to occasionally help out the many peoples of Eorzea with their troubles, as a way of taking a break from your epic tale. And while some of these side quests are very serious, and can in many cases seem a bit repetitive and samey, leading to them becoming forgettable, the Hildibrand Manderville questline from Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn comes in at number 1. But like with the rest of the story, this one is first introduced to us as a very sad and emotional tale. Finding a well-dressed girl called Nashu, we learn that her former detective and mentor has recently passed away tragically, leaving a large hole in her heart and letting us witness her grief at first hand. That is until it turns out that he wasn't dead at all, and now the local zombie horde has adopted him as their leader, while he teaches them the ways of being a gentleman. From this point on, the gentleman detective and his super enthusiastic assistant, who's big on heart but short on brains, take to the streets to solve crimes, often by pure accident or stupidity, while showcasing many upon many cheesy scenes that will either make you facepalm, laugh hysterically, or probably a mixture of both. And things only get more bizarre when you're introduced to more characters, including a weird octopus monster who's a massive perv, or Hildibrand's millionaire father who never wears any clothes, possesses superhuman strength, and is just as batshit crazy as his son. Considering how serious this game is as a whole, I think these set of quests are even more noticeable for being the complete opposite of the rest of the product, making them incredibly memorable and incredibly funny. And for that reason alone, Hildibrand Manderville and his adventures makes it in at number 1 on this list. And that's all we have time for in this video, but if you're a millionaire who never wears clothes, possesses superhuman strength and is just as batshit crazy as your own son, then like this video and subscribe as always. If you don't currently have a son, but you do have all the other characteristics, then you can pick one up on either Twitter or Patreon, and you'll find the links to those in the description below. But until the next video, see ya!
Sometimes I think this life is killing me. Sometimes I think this life is killing me.